Hi, I'm Rita. Welcome back to my booktube channel, Life Worth Reading. Today we're back with another TBR video. This is my TBR for June, which is insane. Like, how are we already halfway through the year? How is time going by so fast? I don't understand. But yeah, I'm here to do my Tarot Picks, my TBR, the June edition. But before I get into any of that, we need to look at the month of May and try to see if I oblige my TBR and if I managed to finish it. Spoiler, I didn't. So let's talk about the books that I was supposed to read. My first prompt this month was actually a free pick, and I picked King of Scars, and somehow I still didn't read it. I feel like it was because if you have seen my 24-hour readathon, I'll link it up above. I started reading The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater, which is a very different type of fantasy than Leigh Bardugo's Grishaverse. But I feel like it was like enough fantasy for me. I wasn't really in the mood to start another duology, even though that I really love these characters. And even though that I am really excited to start this, I wasn't really in the mood for it. And so I'm going to pick this up when I am in the mood for it. I'm probably going to vlog my experience reading this. But yeah, there was just something about it that as the month went by, I was just like, I'm not really feeling this at the moment. And so I didn't read it. Next up, I had to read a horror book, and I picked The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher, which I have read. Then I had to read a recently purchased book, and I picked Raybearer by Jordan Fueco, and I still didn't read it. Like, I am procrastinating reading this book so much because this book is for a video, and I'm just procrastinating filming that video. But it's so stupid because I feel like I'm really going to love this book, and I don't know why I am not reading it. But I feel like I might start it like in a few days, either it's like the first few days of June, which tomorrow is the first day of June. But I feel like I am going to start it this month. I don't want to like hold it off any longer. I really want to read this book, and so I'm gonna like force myself to read it, and hopefully I'm gonna love it. But yeah, I didn't read this one either. Then I had to read a new author to me, or like a debut author, and I picked The Secret Lives of Papa Seki's Wife by Lola Shanawin. I think that's how you pronounce the author's name, and I did read it. And finally, I had to read a new release, and I picked A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson, and I'm so glad that I read that book. Spoilers for my wrap-up, but it was my favorite book this month. It was so good. I am obsessed with it. I haven't stopped thinking about it, and I'm going to need a physical copy of it so soon. But yeah, I'm really glad that I read it, and it was really amazing. And then if you've seen that video also, I picked some books for the Asian Readathon. I knew that I wasn't going to get to all of them, but I picked The Poppy War, which was in my March TBR. And I read 20% of it, and then I just stopped reading because I wasn't really in the mood for it. But yeah, I'm happy to say that I am now 50% into it. So I'm not going to finish it this month, but I am reading it finally again. So I'm really happy about that. Then I picked Anna K by Jenny Lee, which I haven't read yet, which is making me really upset because that's a book that I really want to read too, but I didn't get to it this month. And finally, I picked Unfree Speech by Joshua Wong. This is a nonfiction book about Hong Kong and the loss of its democracy and freedom of speech. And it's a very interesting book. I am reading it. I'm very fairly early on, but this is kind of a short book, and the font is huge, by the way. And so I feel like I'm going to get to it or finish it very soon. And yeah, I'm still currently reading it, but at least I started it. So as you can probably tell, it wasn't my most successful reading month ever. I enjoyed a lot of the books that I read, but I also went a little off the rails with my TBR, and I picked a lot of books that I was just like mood reading. And so I should apply a punishment, but I have to read a lot of books in June. I'm taking an exam in like the first or second day of July, and I have to read so many Portuguese classics for it. And yeah, I'm just not gonna have time to add a punishment. So we're still doing, I'm indecisive if I should do 5 card pulls even. Like, I probably should just do 4, but I feel like I'm gonna do 5 anyway. So, and as you know, June is Pride Month, but I'm not gonna restrict myself to only read LGBTQ plus books because, as I said, I'm a mood reader, and if I feel like reading something out of that spectrum and I restrict myself and say that I can't, I'm not gonna end up reading anything. And so I'm gonna pick mostly LGBTQ plus books, but if I feel like reading something else, I'm also not gonna punish myself for that. Just a few rules before we actually get started. I do 5 card pulls from my tarot deck. This is the Mystic Mondays tarot deck by Grace Duong. I will leave a link in the description for you to check it out. And I divide this into the major arcana and the minor arcana, and I do 2 card pulls from the major arcana and 3 card pulls from the minor arcana. Like I said, I have a whole playlist of my tarot picks by TBR videos, including the first one when I go through all the prompts. And also I have a Google Docs down below, like I said, that will have all the prompts. Also, if you ever want to do this game by yourself, or if you ever feel like you have a tarot deck that you aren't using and you feel like just picking up some random books, I will have a Google Docs that I created down below with all the prompts. So let's just get to picking the cards. All right, so here we are. Like I said, I used the Mystic Mondays deck by Grace Duong. I love this deck so much, and so I will leave a link in the description so you can go check it out if you would like that. And these are the major arcana cards that we have here. Look at these designs. Oh my god, I am obsessed with this. So yeah, we have the major arcana cards here, and we have the minor arcana cards here. And so I will start with the major arcana, and I will do 2 card pulls from here. All right, so let's see what a first card of the major arcana for my June TBR is. I'm just going to divide this in more or less half. Okay, oh shit. Okay, it's the Lovers. Okay, so this means to read a romance book, and I will let you know the book that I choose for this. So this first card means to read a romance, obviously the Lovers. And so for this one, I'm just warning you now, this TBR is going to be filled with a lot of possibilities because I really do feel a big mood reading time coming in June. So like, I don't want to restrict myself, or I'm not going to end up reading at all. So I'm going to have a lot of options for each prompt. So don't get mad at me. But for this one, I'm either going to read Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I think it's Casey McQuiston. I'm going to put a picture of the cover as I always do, so it'll be written there. But I still haven't read that book, and I know a lot of people love it. Recently, I've seen actually a few bad reviews for that book, which I find strange because it was a book that was so popular when it came out. And Casey McQuiston is coming out with another queer romance book, this time between 2 girls, and it's One Last Stop, but it hasn't come out yet. And I don't know if it's on Scribd, whatever. If it's on there, maybe I'll read it. But before that one, I might try Red, White, and Royal Blue. Or I'll be reading Written in the Stars by Alexandria Bellafleur. It's a sapphic romance, and a lot of people have been saying that it's really good. And so I am in between those 3 books. Those 2 by Casey McQuiston, either Red, White, and Royal Blue or One Last Stop, or Written in the Stars by Alexandria Bellafleur. I'm gonna see what I'm in the mood for, and yeah, those are my options for the romance book. Okay, and the second card for my June TBR is the Hierophant. This card, the Hierophant, means to read a historical fiction, and I could read a lot of historical fictions that I already own, but I'm looking for one that has queer themes in it because, you know, Pride Month. And so I am indecisive between a few again, and maybe you could help me choose one. The first option that I have is the 30 Names of Night by Zain Jakadar. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name, so I'm very sorry about that. But I know that this features a trans main character with, I feel like, a Syrian American background, which is very interesting to me. I don't know a lot about Syria, and so I feel like that could be something that's really interesting to read about. And I've recently heard Casey from Casey Can Read talking about this book, and it's been saved on my Scribd, like saved zone, like Scribd TBR, for a while now. And so I feel like that might be a good historical fiction for me to read during Pride Month. But the second option is The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. But I feel like this book might be a little bit too heavy for what I'll be in the mood for. But I know that it's about 2 gay men in the South during slavery times. And so I feel like that might be a little too heavy for me for what I'm in the mood for this month. And also it's a very chunky book. So that might not be an option, but I'm leaving it wide open. And finally, we have Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Jo, which is a historical fiction, a sapphic historical fiction set in Chinatown in the 1950s. And everybody's been giving this book rave reviews, and I feel like I might be in the mood for that because it just sounds amazing. So if you could help me choose between these three books, I would be really thankful. So leave your opinion in the comments if you have read any of these books. Okay, so we have our 2 cards from the Major Arcana chosen. And now I'm just going to leave this pile aside here. And now we're gonna get into the Minor Arcana, and we're gonna pick 3 cards from here. All right, and the first card from the Major Arcana, the Minor Arcana is this one, which is the Ace of Cups. Oh shit. For the Ace of Cups, that means starting a new series because my tarot deck hates me. I feel like I might choose more of a thriller kind of series. So I feel like I will either read Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson, or I'll read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson, because I'm not like really in the mood for starting a new fantasy series. I'm not really in the mood for that. I mean, if I feel like it, I might read King of Scars in June, but I didn't want to officially put it on my TBR because I wasn't in the mood for it this month. So I feel like I might prefer to read a thriller kind of, mystery kind of series. So also let me know if you would rather me read Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson or A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson, because I feel like those are very similar because they're YA mystery series. And so let me know which one you enjoyed more and which one you think I should read. And the second prompt is the Seven of Swords. Then we have the Seven of Swords, and this card means to read a Portuguese book. And for this one, I'm going to be reading one of the classics that I mentioned that I'll be having to read, and that is Os Maias, do Wes de Queiroz. This book is actually really good. It's like mandatory reading in high school, and I'm going to have to reread it to take this exam. And yeah, it's a chunky book. This has almost 700 pages, so I'm gonna have to read it this month again, and I'm gonna tab it a lot more and take a lot more notes because that's what I need to do. So this book follows a family, so it's a very complex intergenerational story written in the 19th century, and it has a lot of social commentary. It's very, very, very well written. He is one of my favorite Portuguese authors, and even though that is a chunky book, it's a very like, if you like character-driven books and like drama-filled books, then this is the book for you. And I'm very happy that I actually have to reread this book because I feel like I'm gonna have another perspective on it since I've grown up since high school, you know. So I'm actually very excited to read this book, and I'm very thankful that this card showed up so that I could include this in my TBR instead of reading it outside of it. All right, and the final prompt of my June TBR is the King of Cups, which kind of sucks, not gonna lie, but we have to work with what we have. And finally, for the King of Cups, a prompt that is to read a book that intimidates me because my tarot deck hates me. I feel like I might be reading The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune because I feel like I'm the last person on earth that still hasn't read that book, and I just want to get it over with. And I feel like I've been pushing it off because it intimidates me, not in page count, but in like everybody loves it and I'm afraid that I won't kind of thing. So I've been like procrastinating me reading that book, and I feel like it's finally time. It also has a game romance, and I feel like it might have a lot of good queer themes, so it might be a perfect pick for Pride Month. And yeah, I don't know, I feel like it might be finally time to read that book, but it is a book that intimidates me a lot. All right, so let's recap all of these options. So for a romance book, I might read either Red Royal Blue or One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, or Written in the Stars by Alexandria Bellefleur. For the Hierophant, a historical fiction, I will either read The 30 Names of Night by Zane Jacadar, or The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr., even though I feel like I might not read that one, or Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Jo. For a Portuguese book, I'm going to be reading Os Maias. For starting a new series, I will either read Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson or A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. And finally, for a book that intimidates me, I'll be reading This House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. I know that I mentioned a lot of books as a lot of possibilities for this month, so do let me know which ones you think that I would enjoy more and your opinions on all the books that I mentioned. Let me know if you have read any of them, and let me know which is the book that you're most excited to read in June. So check out the links in the description, check out my Google Docs with all the prompts, check out the tarot deck. And yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you all have a great reading month in June. As always, if you did enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content, and I'll see you in my next video. I hope you have a nice day, and always remember that life is worth reading.